Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Catt White.
And I'm Brijet Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us. Today, we are celebrating 5 years of Tent Talk.
We're apparently also longtime podcasters.
Put that in our bio. Woohoo!
So I guess this podcast thing is going to take off.
I guess it was a great idea.
Cool.
Who knew?
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Intense, the only national farmers market conference, coming back to San Diego, California, March 4th through 6th, 2024. Super early bird, extra affordable tickets are available for 1 more week. So save now on in-person and online conference registration at the lowest price that will ever be offered. Find your people, learn new things, discover valuable resources, and tune in to the power of the hive mind at Intense Conference 2024. Find the registration button on the homepage at farmersmarketpros.com and reserve your space now to save.
Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. Today we are looking back at 5 full years of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, and looking ahead to the next 5.
I have to say, it turned out you ladies were right. Podcasts are a thing.
Who knew? Who knew? When we told you that podcasts are awesome, we were right.
I was so confused. I was like, I'm a reader. I don't really like to listen to things. And they're like, radio. You listen to the radio. It's like radio on demand. They convinced me, and here we are 5 years later.
Oh, so excited.
Incredible.
Yes, Justine and I, our former sometimes host, I guess on and off again host, third co-host, was very convincing. So we're glad you went along with it. We started this thing.
Me too. I turned out to actually really like it. I've even started listening to some other podcasts. It's
Look
incredible. Look at me.
2023.
Keeping up.
You're so cool.
So we started rough, though, you got to admit.
That was
remember that first episode? It was with Charlotte Smith.
Yeah.
We sat in our conference room, which is intentionally designed to be very contemporary and hard-surfaced.
Large and hard-surfaced. Perfect for recording podcasts.
Or maybe not.
As we sit here in our current podcast pod.
That's right.
Our little
Things have gotten
box.
so much better. There's been kind of a journey to get there. We went from that very echoey first episode, pasted together various soundproof spaces. I don't know if you remember the fabric walls, the carpet squares in one corner of the office.
Yes.
Then we did better microphones.
We did. Did we even have microphones at first? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so. I think we just talked into the computer.
Yes.
We've gotten fancy now.
We are like so fancy now.
Now we have a almost soundproof, as the motorcycle rips by, almost soundproof, air-conditioned podcast pod. Remember when we first got the pod, and it was pretty soundproof, but it had no air conditioning, and in the middle of episodes, we'd start sort of stumbling over sentences because we were so overheated.
We were like turkeys in an oven.
We
were
were.
just sweating. We were like, wrap it up. And then we'd open the door and just take deep breaths. Oh, so much better now. Cool. We have a cool breeze, a silent air conditioner.
Incredible. We should get them as a sponsor.
No kidding. We went through many different producers.
We did.
Or a handful. I won't say many, but
not.
a handful. We started with Justine because we started the podcast together with her, Justine Marzoni-Mead, our former vendor turned podcast and conference
logistics wizard.
Third musketeer.
She was amazing.
She was with us for a long time, and then she went off and ditched us and got a fancy job. So Adam Samaha was our producer for a little while.
Right.
Yes.
It's because he had some weird, obscure podcast before he started working for us at the markets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Discussing some
like the Simpsons?
anime thing, or maybe it was this, I don't know. It was something. Yeah. He had some very not obscure. He had a very niche podcast.
Yes. But he had that talent, so he was able
good.
to help us produce, and that was really helpful. And then short term, in the interim, after Justine ditched us again.
Right? Fool me once, baby. Fool me twice.
Shame on us. We love Justine to death, but she ditched us again. And Haley Pascalades was our producer for a short while, but she was in a different part of the country. It was kind of hard to coordinate.
Brooklyn.
Yes, Brooklyn. So that was a little hard to coordinate.
Honestly, that should have been fine, right? I mean, modern technology, we should have been okay, but I don't know. It just, it it's been more fun being all back in the same room again.
Yes,
I
it's
must
nice.
say.
And here we are now with our Leandra Hayes, who's amazing.
Who's an
and
actual digital audio producer kind of person.
didn't have to teach herself when we asked her to help us.
Right.
She just came in, guns a-blazing with the knowledge.
Already
Love it.
knowing what was happening.
Love it.
I like it.
Very excited.
Our sound quality has definitely gone up.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
She's actually also a skilled video producer.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling she's going to eventually entice us into adding a video presence.
Ah, yes.
We could be YouTube people soon.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
You know,
Can I? I would have to like brush my hair a little bit more than I do right now, but you know
that's
what?
true.
I'm
It's
ready.
going to ruin the pitch that I make to our guests where I say, we want to see you on Zoom because the conversation's better if we have a little eye-to-eye contact, but don't worry about brushing your hair because only the audio is broadcast. Now we're going to have to back up on that. We're going to say, clean up.
Clean it up. Move that crap off your counter behind you.
That's right.
Get ready.
That's right. Brush the chickens off the windowsills.
We're excited for that and new horizons for our podcast for sure.
We've had so many guests.
Yes. So
Shout out to Maya Matson, who has been sort of our virtual co-host over the years. We've had her on at least once a year, all 5 years, and maybe a couple of times.
For sure.
Yeah.
She always comes in and has a really great perspective. We worked with her for many years. She's our long ago Vendor 101 graduate.
That's right.
Turned incredible vendor, turned cookie mogul, and still at our market. And
she's famous.
She's super famous.
She got all social influencered up
during
COVID. She makes the best vegan cookies.
Yeah.
That you would never know are vegan. They're just the most amazing cookies. Black woman-owned business during the uprising, big shift, crazy online business, and now she has retail stores. We're going to get her back.
Yep.
We're going to catch up with Maya.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to catch up.
We'll get her back on the pod.
We just talked to her because we had a back-to-school luncheon for our teachers and got a platter of Maya's cookies.
Did you?
Oh, of course we did.
Aw.
Very well received. We love her to death.
We love her. Actually, your daughter worked for Maya for a little while,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Forgot about that. She did.
Yeah.
Hop on over there at the market.
We've swooned over various accents,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our Canadians, Kendall Ballantine, Chris Quinlan, who taught us to say the Canadian version of produce. Produce.
Produce.
No, produce.
Produce. Oh, I can't. See, I still can't do it. We just love
We're
his
gonna have
accent.
to get him back.
Yeah, we love that those Canadian phrases. And...
Jean-Martin Fortier,
Oh.
the Quebecois.
Oh.
We got to hear a little French accent.
Ooh la
We were
la.
all very, whew. That was fun. Megan Harris
Oh,
of
I
the
love
Southern
her.
Drawl.
Yes.
We've had a few Southerners on. That's always
true.
fun to listen to.
I love it.
Yeah, she was great. She's
Yeah.
Southern Drawl, literally chickens on the windowsill. Babies that she had to change in the middle of our recordings. It was like, remember?
A little action. That's
Yeah.
right.
A lot of action in that one. And Kathy Zeman and her Minnesota accent.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We love it.
We do.
That's what's so great about podcasts is that we could be sitting here in Southern California and we can talk to people all over the place. And so our listeners get to hear all these different folks. It's just wonderful.
That's right.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
We had one lost episode.
Oh, wah, wah.
That was so bad.
Yeah.
Only one.
Only
but
one.
Understandably, Stephanie Norton did not want to come back and re-record. That's when we still recorded in person.
Yes, we had
Many
our
of our
guests,
podcasts.
in person. So Stephanie Norton came to our office and we recorded. This was early days, and something happened with the recording.
Something happened with the recording. It fell off.
A tragic loss.
It was a tragic loss. It
Yeah.
was such an emotional episode.
Yeah.
Stephanie she's rehabbed this historic farmhouse. She was not only a local kind of urban farmer, but she was a farming instructor. She and I had taught a class. I'd actually guest taught one of her classes that she taught at community college. But she also had learned to manage issues with Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she had a lot of struggle in the military with not being diagnosed right. I mean, that was a very emotional episode. I think we all cried. And then it didn't record. It was the worst.
Oh.
So sad.
It lives in our hearts and memories, but just us.
Just one just ours.
Yeah,
Nobody else's. But just one episode went totally awry out of 260. So
Pretty
I'd
good.
say our percentage has been pretty good. It just was sad that it was that one.
Yes.
We've had all types of guests. Farmers, bakers, pozzoli makers, tortilla patters.
Lots of new market managers that came on to talk to us, which was really great because it's nice to hear the things that they're going through and how they kind of problem solve things that are happening at their markets. And we get to have those conversations with them. And it's great for our listeners and honestly great for us as experienced market managers too, because it's a great reminder of not only how far we've come, but how to kind of take it back to our roots and remember the core of what is making a market, because those folks, the new market managers, are in it.
They are.
They're making the market right now, from scratch. So that's always fun to talk to.
So passionate.
Yep.
It's amazing. Various chefs that have been involved with markets, whether it was Sasha, who was on Top Chef. Remember her?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And she had developed a farmer's market product. Chef Ciraldi from Massachusetts, that's a more recent episode. He actually goes out to the dining room, and explains the source of every ingredient in his food, because he shops directly from farmers and at farmers markets.
Yeah.
Lots of chefs, actually, if you look back. Association directors.
Yep.
We've had most of Farmers Market Coalition staff on at one time or another.
They just rotate on the pod. We love
right.
it. We love it.
The executive director, Ben Feldman, he's been on a few times. We've had various staff members there on. Darlene Wolnick has been on.
That's right.
Quite the wizard of data collection and research. Hannah Fuller, who was their communications director at the time. She was very fun.
Oh,
she was awesome. And we will be having the new executive director, Sharice, on soon.
We're very excited to talk to her.
Very excited.
Yeah.
She's coming.
Yep.
Absolutely. Leilani from the Vermont Farmers Market Legal Toolkit from the Vermont Law School. That was exciting.
Yep.
Sadrina Jalal has been on at least once, maybe a couple times,
I
right?
think at least twice.
Yeah. Yeah, who was the facilitator, lead consultant on the Anti-Racist Toolkit, and is still doing that. She and I are actually doing some consulting together on that, so she'll probably be back on before too long.
Yeah. Yep. That was wonderful to talk to her. I feel like we've, this is a professional industry podcast, of course, but we are humans and working together, you and I, and related. And so, of course, personal stories and conversation comes in. And just really, we've never been shy about jumping into tough topics, from talking about vaccines and Black Lives Matter uprisings to size-inclusive markets and protecting all gender identities and how to handle that at the market. And it's been great conversation, I feel like.
It has.
Really great feedback from our listeners when we talk about those things, because that's just part of life. And if we just talk about nuts and bolts of farmers market management, that's not really the whole picture. So it's been, sometimes sad to talk about those things and dealing with struggles and challenges, and also just encouraging getting to talk to folks that are really working in that space and learning things. We're always just evolving and listening and learning. So podcast is a great space to do that.
I like to think we've helped other people along the way, too, kind of sort some of those issues out. I mean, they're not easy.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're dealing in situations that we've just never dealt with before, and our whole culture is changing. And that includes farmers markets and all the people in farmers markets. So it's been nice to kind of go along that path together.
For sure.
Figure things out. We've swapped episodes with other podcasters that we like.
That's right.
Allie Ball, who's big. We love her. She does Retail Ready. She kind of moves people into the wholesale, big retail kind of operations, Whole Foods and the like. Sarah Marshall, who has been at our conference every year and has been on the podcast once or twice. And then I was on her podcast. That was awesome. Michael Kilpatrick, that does Thriving Farmers. He talked to us a lot about the farmer's perspective and really smart things that farmers can do to change their sales. It was good to have him on, and I was on his podcast talking about some of those things, and on one of his summit deals that he did, speaking of video things. And Sarah Delaman. She's absolutely one of our favorites.
So smart. I always learn so much when she's on the pod and just listening to her talk.
I do too.
Really smart. Yep.
She's doing amazing things with people right now about navigating the wholesale side. Yeah, so Good Food CFOs. That's a great podcast. So we're looking forward to more of that. We're going to concentrate on switching up more with other podcasters in the coming years and see if we can speak to their audience, get them to come back and share their expertise with ours.
Yeah, I love that. It's just beneficial to everybody's audience, I think, and that crossover is helpful because this is a niche industry podcast, but there's so much crossover with other businesses, and these are folks that are running small businesses as well as being market managers and vendors and farmers. So all that crossover is really helpful, I think, for all of our audiences.
It is. It's interesting that we actually get a lot of comments either on our Instagram, people messaging us, or people that I run into out in the field, that saying that even though we're very niche and we never get away from the whole idea of farmers markets and the people that are involved in farmers markets, we get a lot of small business owners who don't even operate in farmers markets. They just operate in small businesses, saying that a lot of the things that we talk about are relevant for them.
Yep.
So how they deal with staff and how they deal with social issues and finance things that we talk about and marketing techniques and tools, all of that can be really helpful to people that are in a small business, even outside of the farmers market realm.
Yeah. And then, of course, we'll still be doing live from Intense conference episodes, which are always wonderful. We don't put the whole conference on our podcast because that would take forever, first of all. And also, we want everyone to come experience the conference, but it's nice to pick a few of our favorite presentations, and we have recordings of those presentations and to launch them as podcast episodes, which has been really great to share that information with people who maybe couldn't come. Or we get a lot of feedback that attendees just like listening to it, the podcast, because even though they were there, there's so much info happening at the conference that they want to kind of re-experience that presentation. So that's been wonderful.
And you can kind of concentrate on it in a different way.
Yeah.
When you're just listening and not surrounded by all the stuff and the fun that's going on at the conference.
For sure.
We also usually record one episode at each conference where the attendees sit down with us and answer a question, and those have been amazing.
Oh, I love those. I think we've done that 2 years in a row now, and those are some of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Because it's just great. It's like a little snippet from different market managers from across the country, and it's just really nice to hear their perspective on whatever question we're asking or whatever's happening. So,
speaking of snippets, we got a couple of episodes coming up soon, and we're going to ask our listeners to send us voice memos or let us call them and do, just a 3-minute Zoom and get input. We love splicing all of those together. It's really fun sometimes to do an episode where there's a whole bunch of voices from different places.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, as a podcast listener to other podcasts, I really like that. Just kind of mix it up and get to hear a lot of people's perspectives in one episode once in a while. It's wonderful.
So I was kind of scrolling through our 259 episodes leading up to this one to kind of pick out my favorites, and I'm kind of stumped. There's so many, and some of them I'd forgotten about entirely, and I went, oh, that was so fun to talk to that guy, or wow, she was so smart. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard. What are your favorite episodes?
It's hard to pick. I mean, I scrolled back a little bit. I was thinking way back to when we had Charlotte Smith on a few times in the very early days, and how that was really wonderful. It was a nice way to start the podcast off because she was so, first of all, just, speaks so well, and it was nice to have, she's easy to have a conversation with, and I learned a lot talking to her when she was on the pod. So she was a wonderful guest. All of her episodes are good. Sound quality, not so great. Content, really great. So that was great, and that was way back in the day. I think during, COVID, when the market shut down, I was thinking back to how we kept doing the podcast. So that was when Adam was producing, and he was our market staff as well. And then he was kind of floating between some other things. He was taking time off during that time, but he was producing it for us. And it was nice for you and I to sit down just in the midst of that chaotic time, really stressful time for us as market managers, and just living in a world where the pandemic was at its height, and also just to be able to speak to other market managers. And we would get messages, like Instagram messages and Facebook and emails from our listeners that was just like a really important thing for them to have, was for us to be talking about protocols and how to navigate that, and how to navigate anti-mask situations at your market, or handling staff, and how to be safe, and how to kind of hold it together for your crew, and how to support your farmers and the vendors that were just struggling so much, and just the people that were, lost as vendors and farmers, just not coming to the market. Just talking about all those things. I feel like looking back on that, I can't really listen to those episodes right now. I feel like it's too soon, but maybe in 10 years I can look back. It'll be a nice, a historical, touchstone, a point in time where we were all collectively dealing with this thing. And we have this podcast where we kind of just have this oral history of what was going on in real time.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, literally crying on some of those episodes, and thinking about editing that out, and then realizing that everybody else was crying too, and that it was, the comments we got was that it was comforting for them in a way to know that even though we were very experienced managers and we had a staff and we had resources, we were also scared.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be a comfort to folks that were just really out of their depth and so worried and frightened about what would happen to their markets and to their farmers.
Yeah. And just a kind of a collective experience. It was nice to share that with us. And yeah, so that was a interesting time of the podcast, but then also just the coming out of that and reopening and being able to celebrate those things that were happening, as a group, us on the podcast. And then Justine came back, and it was nice to, just kind of have some celebrations and document that on the podcast and have our listeners be a part of that as well. And we got to call people, that was, everyone learned how to do Zoom, which was perk, I guess, for podcasts. So we got to talk to people across the country and see how their markets were doing and share in the joys as well as, sorrows that were happening. So I think that was really great for us to have our podcast already up and running at that point. We didn't have to start something new while everything was collapsing. Some fun stuff that we've done on the podcast, definitely Farmers Market Week prep episodes. Usually we are saying, whoops, it's coming up. Like, we forgot. But just having like Hannah on and Farmers Market Coalition folks on there, or listening to other farmers market managers, what they're up to for Farmers Market Week, that's always fun, or any other celebrations. And then hearing vendors' success stories.
I think those are some of my favorites. As I was rolling back through, I was thinking, oh, you know what? I feel like we haven't had as many vendors on recently.
Yeah.
Just this last, 6 or 7 months at least. And I'd like to go back and really reactivate that because some of those stories are amazing.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
Panita Patel that had water buffalo? And she really wanted to raise water buffalo, but she couldn't figure out a way to make that profitable where she was. Is she in Louisiana?
I think so,
somewhere in there, yeah. So she started making the buffalo milk and the buffalo yogurt and different dishes. She was amazing.
Yeah, just really smart vendors that come up with these incredible creative products, and then to hear their stories of how they started. I mean, Christopher from Benny Blanco's Tortillas, like
best.
Everyone thinks his name's Benny, but he bought the business from a guy that used to buy tortillas from. I mean, that story is just insane, and he is taking off like no one's business. Like, just he's wonderful, and it's just been nice to get to know other vendors from around the country that we can actually like be friends with. And then when we go to their markets, I mean, I went to the Gilbert Farmers Market and got to meet him, and it's like this really connects us to vendors. And I think when we first started this podcast, and kind of what we've always thought about like the conference and the podcast is we're market managers, like maybe this is material for market managers, but the vendors' stories are also, they're for vendors, absolutely, because that's the inspiring piece for other vendors. But as market managers, it's so incredible to hear their stories because we're not on that side of the business. And just to hear how they started their business, their challenges, their struggles, and then like successes launching off into multiple markets, training their staff up, getting their branding together. I mean, just all these things that happen from the vendor experience at the farmers markets.
And I feel like those stories for us as market managers do two things. They give us empathy. They remind us that while we're worried about them showing up on time and being in their spot when they're supposed to, they're worrying about a whole bunch of other things. So I think it gives us more empathy towards what they're dealing with. Most of us all know that. We came from that kind of a spot, or we've known them really well. But it's a good reminder for us. And then the other thing that I think it does for us is remind us how important it is what we do. That we are creating a space where, with a fairly low barrier to entry, small businesses can thrive and people can develop the big enough business, the right size business that works with their lifestyle, that lets them support their families but not be too far away from their families. And that's a really important part of what we as managers do, and we should be proud of ourselves for that.
Yeah, it's a great connecting that we do with the vendors when we get to hear their stories and just reflect on how we are a part of their story, just like they're a part of ours. And it's been nice to talk to our own vendors that are at our markets every week. I mean, we've had probably like a dozen of our own vendors on for, over the years, and just people that I've known for years. But when you sit down and you do a 45-minute interview with them, you learn so much more about them than you do when you're at the market, hustly bustly, trying to get the market set up. So it's been really great to hear all of their stories and just to get to know them better that way, and have our audience get to know our vendors and the people that we really, truly love and adore and like have gotten to know. So it's been nice to share that with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Shiny Flannery episodes, always some of my favorites. She has a little bit different perspective. She and I have had a lot of great conversations, sometimes on the podcast and sometimes beyond, about balancing the whole ideas of capitalism and teaching people to be able to support themselves with what's the line between that and cooperation and food equity and helping people eat. So, that's such a deep topic. That's another one that we tackle that I think farmers market people do a good job of figuring out that balance and kind of promoting everybody's access to good food. And at the same time, there's a lot of little details that you just have to figure out, and it helps to have somebody else's perspective. She's really smart.
Yeah, for sure. And I just hang on to every word that she says. So it's nice to have a podcast as a vehicle to move her voice into other people's ears from, all far away. Just a few quick guests that we've had specifically that I was scrolling through and was saying, oh, that was fun. Brett and Patricia Keller, who are like kind of local. They're market managers and they do special events. That was a really fun episode. And I feel like it was fun to talk to them and just learn more about what they do. And they're awesome people. Denise Alvarez of Click Bloom, who's a vendor, who sent us like a gift box that she said, wait until we're interviewing her on the podcast to open it, which was so fun. It was so fun. So we did like an unboxing episode and she had a bunch of like little items from her vendor business. So like earrings and pins and all sorts of stuff in there. So that was really fun. And she's amazing. And she had a great story too. And she was so positive and uplifting. And it was a great conversation. And then talking to Mike at JR Organics, who we've all known for a long time, also one of our farmers at our markets, but just hearing his experience putting CSAs together and how farmers markets are such a driving force for his farm and has kept the business of his longstanding, huge, like family organic farm running. I mean, it's just those stories that are just, again, you kind of feel good about what you're doing as a market manager and also what other farmers and vendors are doing at markets because we're just part of this whole like ecosystem at the market. So
I love those episodes.
Yeah.
I've had fun, too, recording some episodes when I've been out on the road since I do more traveling because Bridget's really kind of wrapped her arms around that life on the street.
Don't say life on the street. That makes it sound weird. I know farmers market people might get that, but some other phrase.
We'll figure out a different way to say that. Life in the tents.
There we
no,
go.
Not that much better. I don't know. All right. Anyway,
market life.
Market life.
Yeah.
Bridget is on site at the markets, even more than I am nowadays, which means that I get to get out and about and visit people in other markets and having people tap me on the shoulder and with a strong New Zealand accent say, oh, you helped me figure out how to manage that at the market because I was listening to your podcast, bringing some of those comments back on by doing little on the road, on my phone, voice recording episodes and bringing them back in has been really, really fun. Or being at a conference and talking to a farmer that's explaining to us what we as managers can do to make our market one that farmers aspire to be in. All of those kind of things where I'm out and about in the world, those have been fun episodes for me.
I like that. I love to listen to who you're talking to when you're out and about and just get those little snippets onto the pod.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll be in Rotterdam soon.
Can't wait to hear all about
That's
it.
Right.
I guess I'm never going out of town again, so I'll be here.
One day. So what's coming up? We've got 5 years under our belts. What's coming up in the next years, do you think? For now, we're still weekly.
Yep.
We're going to keep taking the recording studio on the road. So we're going to talk to people at markets in other parts of the U.S., and Canada, the wider world, and bring those back. Yeah. Might do some deep dive multi-episode series this fall. Maybe not this fall. I would say by next spring. We got a lot of conference work to do.
Yeah.
But those are coming. I'd like to take some time to kind of dig deeply into some topics that might take some time to explore, might take a variety of guests to opine on what they're thinking about things and share that with people. I know you've liked some other people's podcasts that are series.
Yeah, I like that, telling a story and kind of getting deeper into the subject because I love the length of our podcast. I think it's, manageable for folks to listen to. It's nice to kind of split a story up and across a few episodes so you can get a real deep understanding of things. And I think you're going to be really great at kind of getting more information out there. So
yeah, digging down into some of those kind of things. If Leandra has her way, we will have episodes that include some video tips.
Yeah.
We may we're actually exploring a membership maybe where we do something on Substack or one of those platforms where we move maybe the deeper part of our library into there and you can join a membership and get even more instructive videos and things on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Maybe some guest hosts.
Yeah.
Might invite Farmers Market, they do that guest Instagram thing. Might invite Farmers Market Coalition to do the work and record some episodes. We'll see what happens.
We had a lot of great ideas and brainstorming when, again, Justine did just this past spring after the conference, but and saying like, oh, we're too busy. Like, what are we going to do? Kind of scrambling around. We had our longtime market manager passed away, so we were really scrambling here and just. Not really. We played a bunch of best of episodes, I think, back in April and May just to kind of get us through that time. But it was great because we got to think about what are some ways that we can take this podcast and grow it and spin it into something new and exciting as we continue our, weekly conversations like we've been doing. So, yeah.
I think you and I will keep talking to each other, but I think you might also do some episodes on your own where you're talking to vendors and people and telling their stories. I might do some of them on my own, whether traveling or kind of digging deep into some political stuff.
Yeah. And I think that'd be great because we both want to kind of follow our passion with that. So,
yep. But we'll be back together pretty regularly, I'm quite sure.
I guess.
Here in the pod.
Never getting away from each other.
We'll have to do a deep dive on working together as family members, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people that could talk about that, including us.
We could have a lot of guests on. Market family. Market family.
Market family. That's
Yeah.
right.
What'd you say the other day? Frienders.
That's right. Our vendors who have also become friends, our frienders.
Our frienders. I'm gonna do a whole series of frienders, and I'm gonna interview a bunch of vendors that I've become friends with over the years.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Frienders.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be a T-shirt.
Oh, I love that.
Right?
We could do those little best friend necklaces with the heart that you break apart.
Maybe a carrot with a carrot top, and you put them together, and it's all carrot.
Oh man,
So many possibilities.
endless possibilities.
Endless.
Well,
Let's march forward into the next 5 years.
let's go. So thank you so much to all of our listeners, because without listeners, you don't have a podcast. Well, I
For
guess
sure.
you do. I guess you could make a podcast.
Yeah,
with that.
shouting into the void. How much fun would that be?
I mean, sometimes it feels like that. We're just sitting in here. But we really, love it when we get feedback on the podcast, and when we see people come to our markets, or we go to markets and we meet people, that we've talked to or that have heard our podcast. It's just such a wonderful community that this podcast has built.
It really is. It's given our reach. I mean, we've got much longer arms now to hug everybody in the farmers market community. And it's so fun on the road to run into people who know about the podcast, or, as you say, come to our markets and know about the podcast, or our own vendors that say that they listen.
Oh, I love it. And just people that are not even in the farmers market world. I have a couple random friends that listen every week, and they're just like, that was so interesting. And they just work some corporate job. So it's a nice escape pod. I love it.
It's a funny thing because it's a niche kind of pod. And sometimes we talk about sort of the inside workings of farmers markets, and we have to consider, is this actually something we want the public to hear? Because anybody can listen to this.
Anyone can tune in.
So we have to be careful, but I like to think that we're shedding a light on what is a little known thing, which is how much work goes into making a wonderful farmers market, and what a difference it makes to the people that participate, to those farmers and vendors. And I think maybe the general public isn't entirely clear on that. So if every once in a while they listen in, even if they learn some of our secrets, I think it's fine.
It's a good educational tool.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Every kind of person who listens to this.
Tune in for the next 5 years and beyond.
That's right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening today. This episode and all of the 259 episodes before it have been supported by you, our listeners. Thank you for listening, leaving reviews wherever you listen to podcasts, emailing us with comments and questions, and being part of our Farmers Market Pros community all year long. Your conference attendance and online class and consulting purchases and referrals let us keep providing this free content every week, all year long, year after year. Register now for Intense, the National Farmers Market Conference, and we'll meet you live and in person in San Diego, March 4th through 6th, 2024, and right here, wherever you listen to podcasts, next Monday and every Monday after that.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow farmers market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros community. Follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, and find online education and other resources on our website at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in next week for another great episode.